tried to live by and not always great at is listening to my heart and following my intuition. Finding that balance between, brain and intuition, if you will, and expanding my network. So my network is the most valuable thing to me ever. And, you and I have talked about this endlessly is the importance of nurturing the network, right? And sometimes we get so bogged down with our brain and things that we need to do that we forget the emotion. And it kind of goes back to the discussion of the balance, right? The balance between AI and the emotion component. Like I can't rely all on tools and all the to-do list. It's that personal interaction with others and learning. Um, I wouldn't give myself the advice of learning because I have done that from the beginning, but I do give that to everybody else is listen and learn as much as you can. And just because it's outside of your comfort zone, that's when you need to push yourself even more to learn and listen. Um, don't discard it and take things at face value. Like, just dig in deeper to higher learnings.
Buy Amazon stocks.
Besides buying Amazon stock or Microsoft or
A few of them.
Yeah.
Get into stocks early. Yeah. What would I tell myself? I mean, I would say, be patient. Patience is a virtue. I think there's a lot that, I saw. There's a lot of things that I saw coming, and I was very anxious in wanting that change faster than perhaps the organization that I'm with at the time is capable of metabolizing.
Yeah.
And that fed myself, a lot of angst and frustration.
Yeah.
Clearly, and this is part of the reason why I'm a consultant is that, I recognize like my ability to solve problems and find answers may sometimes be faster than an organization's ability to absorb it. And that's perfectly fine.
Yeah.
Right. It doesn't mean that it went to waste. It just takes more time for perhaps one organization to arrive at the finish line than another. Hey, if they can afford it and this is the process, there's nothing wrong with that. And I think my younger self probably would have not accepted that as the answer.
Right. So I would say you got to show up. And there's part of me that really wants to emphasize you got to show up not just virtually, but you got to show up in person. And the most important thing you can do is remain open to possibility. I believe, and I could list hundreds of examples of this, is that serendipity plays a big role in life. But you can only take advantage of it, if you create the time and space for chance encounters and you don't let your life script get in the way of possibility, right? So I think, like what I learned from people who have mentored me about the importance of listening to kids when you're talking about the creating in the digital media space for young people is a piece of this because that listening is about an openness, about a staying open, staying attuned, being willing to not work with a set of fixed ideas, but with a set of fluid ideas that are shaped by others. I think like those ingredients are so important, particularly in a world that is really truly evolving at unprecedented speed and in unprecedented ways.
Gosh, I had to think about this one because I think it would probably be to really, and this has worked for me for my career, is really like even when I started at Yahoo, I said, I got my MBA in international business and focusing on Spanish. I'm really going to stick to my guns and look for a role that aligns with that. And it took more time, but those kind of decisions always resulted in the best outcome. So I guess that would be steering the ship in the direction you want to go in and
Yeah.
sticking to your guns and really honing in on that versus kind of going after when I went after the shiny objects and maybe the bigger title and the salary, that always didn't have the best outcome.
Yeah.
You learn something, but I think, steering where your passion and your interests lie and then really sticking to that and not following the wave, but
Right.
steering the ship, if that makes sense.
Okay, so there's a couple paths I would say. One of which I was actually just listening to a podcast from Scott Galloway the other day.
Yeah, they're great.
It was
Yeah, he's
so
great.
amazing. And he was talking about, when we were starting out in our careers, it was all about follow your passion. If you never feel like you're working a day in your life, you're going to be successful. And the reality is, there are certain categories and certain spaces to really focus in on that a lot of people have a lot of passion. And so I loved the nuance that was brought to bear in the sense that if you find what you're uniquely talented at,
There
and
you go.
you marry that with your passion and you thread that through your entire career journey, I think that that's really where success comes from. So I would tell my 25-year-old self a bit of that. I also, kind of believe that being not so worried about that next step, life especially in career and potentially even personal life, it's like sliding doors and you sort of find yourself where you're meant to be anyway at every moment. So sort of, be patient. Patience is a virtue. And also, kind of like absorb, take every minute, find the learnings, even when, there's some unsavory moments in your career. There's huge learnings in those of like who you want to be as a leader, who do you want to be as an employee, as a professional, and what it really speaks to you. And so I think, definitely follow your dreams, stay curious, stay ambitious, but also be sure that you enjoy the journey and absorb all of the learnings that come along with it.
Be true to yourself. If I look back at all the time spent worrying about what other people are going to think, or is this the right thing to do?
Right.
And instead it's let me be true to myself. Let me stand my ground. Let me have my reasons for doing it. And also let me focus on the now instead of worrying about, well, what will happen or tomorrow.
Right.
Just really stay in the now, focus on that and being true to yourself and going forward with it with conviction. You're going to fail, you're going to succeed.
Yeah.
But if you believe in what you're doing, you're going to have a much better chance because you will look back and go, all that time spent wondering was a waste of time.
Wasted. Yeah, or thinking.
Well, the thing where I am right now that I wish I would have known a long time ago was how to be present. And when I left Group Black, a person who I do some work with, Grant Haas, who's been like an incredible like partner and resource and advisor and I guess mentor type. He's like, you need to slow your brain down a little bit. And so he connected me to people that were starting this company called Still Life. And I went through this incubator with them where I learned through this incredible like guru Jim who like really teaches you how to like focus, how to like really turn everything off and how to be present. So, through breathing and meditation. And I've always worked out. Like I've always been about like the cardio workout my whole life. And so to like have this new experience and then see like how game changing it is to actually be present and like move through the world with this like kind of like different vibe is just a very interesting experience. And there's certain people that know me really well that are like, wow, like your energy is just different. And I'm not like a super woo-woo person, but it's been really, really eye-opening. And I wish I would have known to like
add the tools.
Yes.
Right.
And I think like along the way, different people, I mean, I can remember one person who was like, oh, you should meditate like 10 years ago. And I was like, okay.
Yeah, you're like, no.
Right. Like I don't have time for that. So, I think that that's one thing. And then the other thing I would say is, trust your gut, right? Like that's one of the things. I think I did an okay job of that. And I still struggle with that a little bit, but you kind of know innately, like if you get that ick factor about something,
or
if you
bad.
just totally connect with someone,
Yeah.
you know? So there's a lot of signaling that's happening every day, like your, you know, mind, body, and really kind of trusting that, I think, is something that I wish I would have paid more attention to over the years.
I think those are great learn.
I think it's key here to understand that behind every professional or behind every role, there is a person, a human being, you know, like with emotions, with feelings, with expectations. And I think it's key for us at least to learn a lot about ourselves, to, you know, like know yourself. And I'm obsessed with that. I'm obsessed with, you know, like, you know, knowing more and more about myself and understanding how I feel the way I feel and how I behave the way I behave. So I think that's the only way to get better at at being a person, at being a human being, and just getting better at life. I would summarize.
Definitely. I think we learn that too late in life sometimes.
I agree.
Should be taught in kindergarten. But anyway, I digress. What would your piece of advice be, or your best advice for your 25-year-old self, if you had to give yourself advice?
You know, I would say just to keep it cool, to trust the process, to keep opening doors. I think that's also what I tell everyone, like the younger generations now, when I sit with them and they ask me like, well, how do you build a plan? How do you know how to start or where to start? And
Right.
I've always said this, and this is based on my personal experience. The main clients or the biggest businesses, or like, you know, like the main opportunities that I've ever launched, I did that, or like that ended up happening because I was pursuing something more than just money. I was just showing up, being there, regardless of the economical opportunity. Maybe because I was interested in some particular, like, you know, like
Curiosity.
situation.
Yeah. The
Yeah,
curiosity.
I was curious about, you know, like I was just opening the doors and just showing up there. And like, I'm for real, like 80% of the businesses that I've launched, and the big ones, were because I was either helping someone do something, you know, like, and what I was getting, it was just learning, or, you know, like growing into some particular skill or something, showing up even though I didn't want to, but like just showing up because I had to be there. So I think that's key, like just to, you know, keep opening doors. It doesn't matter where you are. I've always, I even keep this practice for myself. Like when I receive a lot of this vendor emails that we get a lot of.
Oh yeah, tons
I
of
still
them.
reply to those. I start with them, like just to, you know, like have meetings and learn, okay, how is this person pitching? How is this person selling? What is it? What are they telling me? What can I learn from them? So I think we never stop learning, and I think being humble and keep opening doors and keep listening and seeing what it's out there. I think it's, you know, the main advice I would give.
The first thing I would say is open your mind and don't think you know it all, and don't be so narrow-minded about things. So the first, that would be number one, because I feel like in my 20s, I was very much an artistic purist.
Yeah.
From having gone to art school.
Yeah.
And commercial was a bad word. And you know, I had a very sort of traditional way of looking at things. And I would also say, and I've always been a natural people person, but I actually think there's we need to go above that. It's not enough to be a natural people person. You have to consider taking care of your people and I would call them your kindred spirits. Taking care of your kindred spirits is fundamental to your success. And so make sure you build with people that you like and that you trust, and that you keep them, and that you touch base with them, because ultimately your network is your everything. It truly is your path to success. Nobody achieves anything alone. Right? We achieve great things because we have a wonderful group of supporters who believe in what we do and want to see us win. And so those are two pieces of advice I would give myself.